This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. He jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herbstreit ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone with trees. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCan.com. That's Matt Bruning. Austin Nace is vacationing in space, but Chris Moxley is here, and I'm Felix Sharp on a professional version of tonight's show. Our Traylon Burks and Isaiah Spiller damaged goods. Is Breece Hall the best running prospect of all time? And were we wrong overall about the 2022 draft class? But we start with the Twitter storm engulfing RA Analytics earlier this week. Before the Calvin Ridley news, before the Russell Wilson trade, before those headlines dominated fantasy and NFL Twitter, Recruiting Analytics came under fire for a new set of metrics that they called intangilytics, which purported to measure an individual's quote-unquote soft skills like grit and positivity. Now, it's not exactly clear what data Recruiting Analytics was using to create these metrics, but it appears, based on the early explanations, that individual interviews were used and the responses to questions were used to create this data, and it created somewhat of a firestorm. Now, how those interviews create that data pool, and therein create the metric is not actually clear because the tweets have since been deleted. But we talked about this a little bit in our founders chat, and Jarek, our brilliant data analyst, mentioned that he believed that this data had the potential to be discriminatory. I'm glad that we have Jarek here today. Jarek, can you elaborate? What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so when I talk about that, there's basically like four main points I'd want to touch on for that. First is the type of data. So, when it first came out, Chris actually mentioned in the chat that maybe they're a tracking company, maybe it's tracking data. That could be interesting if they're trying to measure things through tracking data using that type of stuff. But later came out that it's actually just more so language processing information, and so that really changed it from measuring what they do to measuring what they say, which is quite a bit different. The second point I want to touch on is there's a bunch of different cultures in the NFL, and all cultures or personality types aren't going to express something like say leadership in the same way. So can they really capture those differences reliably? Big question there. My third point is, well, it's kind of well known that there's a bunch of bias introduced into kind of this type of data. So currently there's a heavy racial connotation to some of the categories they're choosing to measure, grit, some other things. And who decides what the definition of like leadership or grit are? They've been intentionally vague around their methods, and this could introduce a large amount of bias, just like what their definition is for this. And let's just say that they controlled for all this somehow. The fourth point is sample size. Big companies that do like sentiment analysis and stuff need a massive amount of data to get anything meaningful. There's like a lot of noise in there. So they're getting their data just from talking. Maybe they're also getting it from like online presence, possibly. But there's a lot of questions on how that data is being gathered because they don't talk that much, publicly at least. And so it's kind of like a garbage in, garbage out kind of situation.
I should mention that we interviewed Corey Yates, the CEO of Recruiting Analytics, on Thursday evening before this kind of firestorm on Monday morning went off. And, had we known, we may have asked him a little. He actually talked about this potential metric a little bit during that interview. So you can catch that, the Storytime podcast on the Campus to Canton podcast feed. Jarek, the data community was really up in arms about this. For you, what information would you need to assess the value of this kind of study, metric, whatever you want to call it?
Well, I need to know definitively what's being measured and like how they're measuring it. Like also the sample size that they're using and how reliable that is, because that is very questionable at this point. And then how well does it actually translate to anything on the field? Like you can get these data points, but do they actually mean anything? Does it matter? You could just be knocking someone just because they have low positivity, but does that actually mean anything?
Jarek, I really thank you for your insight on this. I mean, this was all the discussion earlier this week. Chris, Matt, did you want to weigh in at all on this issue?
I think what Jarek said is pretty representative about how I feel as well. What he mentioned at the beginning is I had initial interest in this data because I thought it was tracking on-field like body language, and if we could quantify body language, that's a lot more interesting than talking about like speech. And basically what everything Jarek said about the nature of like language processing is inherently biased, and so I basically think Jarek did a really good job summarizing like what our concerns with this is. But if we can quantify some of this like tracking stuff based on some of the stuff they're doing for miles per hour, then I think we have a different kind of conversation. And there's potential with this, but I share the same concerns.
And I should mention here that Congress is actually looking into how bias and algorithms and metrics affect the public overall. I've firsthand experience about this. Can't speak about it as intelligently as Jarek can, which is why I asked him to come on. Always bugging Jarek to come on and talk about something. I was really happy that he decided to come on for this one. You can find Jarek at Jarek Backus on Twitter. Of course, I think there's consensus that he's really the only person that matters of Campus to Canton. So he's the only one that can't be replaced. So Jarek, we appreciate you for joining us on that one.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Let's get into some more concrete football talk here, Matthew and Chris Moxley. Russell Wilson traded to the Broncos. I mean, this is a Devy show, but we got to hit on some of these kind of big breaking news things. The Broncos will send quarterback Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and a 5th-round pick to the Seahawks. Now, my first thought on this was the Rams last year when they traded for Matthew Stafford. I thought that it would put them over the hump in the NFC. Matthew, do you think that the Wilson trade will have the same effect for the Broncos in the AFC?
So I got to ask you, what exactly qualifies as over the hump? Are we talking about getting into the playoffs, or are we talking about making it and winning a Super Bowl like Stafford was able to do for the Rams? Because I think it's two different things. I think this makes the Broncos a better team and a playoff team? 100%. I mean, we've seen them compete for the most part with Kansas City and the Chargers, who I think are two of the top-tier teams in the AFC the past 2 years with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock at quarterback. Now you bring in a guy like Russell Wilson. I think that does help out, especially with the offensive weapons they have around them. Jerry Jeudy, I know they lose Noah Fant. They're apparently very big on, I call him King Albert because I cannot for the life of me say his last name, but they're very big on him at tight end. You got Cortland Sutton. Javonte Williams looks like he's going to be a top 5, top 10 running back, at least for fantasy. But do I think it puts them as like Super Bowl contenders in the AFC? I would still slot them at least 4th behind Kansas City, Buffalo, and I think you have to still put Cincinnati ahead of them because of what Burrow was able to do last year, and they're not losing much on defense. Chances are they're only going to improve their team. They just went to the Super Bowl and beat all of those teams as well. So I think at best you have to put them 4th, in my opinion, in the AFC. But as we've seen before, I mean, talked about it with the Browns a couple of years ago, almost beat Kansas City. Like, anything happens. Giants, whatever that was back, gets in as a wild card team, wins 2 Super Bowls. If you get into that tournament, anything can happen. So I do think it gives them a better shot of winning a Super Bowl. I will say, I think Denver took a bigger risk bringing in Russell Wilson than the Rams did Stafford. I don't know exactly how old Stafford is off the top of my head, but I did look earlier that Russell Wilson is already 34. And I think with the way Denver is set up, I think they're almost doing the same thing as what they did the previous time in bringing Peyton Manning in as a free agent. I think they've kind of opened themselves up to like it's another 2 to 3 year window at best to win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson, trading away all those picks and the team that they have built right now.
Mox, Matt Bruning is putting the clock on Russell Wilson. Do you agree?
Not necessarily. I think he's a year younger than Stafford when he was traded, so they're like at least comparable ages. Russell Wilson's game has changed so much over the course of the last like 6 or 7 years, where he went from a guy who could reliably rush a bunch to a guy who could use rushing his legs like when he needed to. He's really adapted his game, and I think it's something that's sustainable long term. So I'm not worried about this trade like 3 or 4 years down the line, but I do think obviously it improves Denver, right? Like they were playing with garbage quarterbacks the last couple of years, but what is their upside really? Matt said he had them 4th. I think I have them 5th. I think the Chargers are going to be better than them this year. I think that they have a legitimate shot to improve. They should have made the playoffs this year. And then the same teams, Kansas City's better than them. Buffalo's better than them. I think Cincinnati's probably better than them until we see otherwise. So yeah, I mean, this made a difference, but the AFC is so difficult to compete in.
Mox, I got to interrupt you here. I mean, Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks we've had in the last 10 years. This might, when you think about the offense overall, it might be the best offense that he's ever played with. When you think about Javonte Williams, they bring back Melvin Gordon, KJ Hamler, if he can get healthy, Tim Wright, Cortland Sutton, and a healthy Jerry Jeudy, and then this might be overall the best offense that he's ever played with. And he is, I mean, Russell, it would not surprise me at all if Russell Wilson played until 40 years old.
No, but how many quarterbacks do you think are better than him currently in the AFC? I think there's a case for 4. I think there's legitimately 3. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then we can have a conversation about Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. So there's still... we're not even talking about Lamar Jackson. That's a good point, right? Like, we're not even having the conversation about Lamar, who was hurt the second half of the year. So maybe he's 5th. That's a good point. And so yes, this is a better situation that Denver was in, but there's a lot of hurdles to get over in the AFC. The AFC is a million times better than the NFC right now.
The thing that we care about, though, is the fantasy perspective. And Matthew, I mean, how much do you think that Russell Wilson is going to raise the tide for all the ships there? You got Cortland Sutton. He had 90 8 targets last year. Noah Fant, 90. Tim Patrick with 85. Jerry Jeudy with just 56. Now, Albert Owusu is going to be the starter there. He had 40 last year. He's going to step into the starting role. I mean, how well do you expect this cast to perform next year?
Oh, that I have no doubt he's going to be amazing for the Broncos on the fantasy side of things. I mean, he likely will bounce back. I want to say it was 3 years ago when Pete Carroll allowed I think it was Darrell Bevell at the time was still the offensive coordinator, actually allowed Russ, that was the whole let Russ cook campaign, and they actually let him throw the ball a ton the beginning half of that season. He was amazing. He was like QB 1 or 2 for fantasy. And then they started losing a couple games and went right back to running the ball a bunch and playing defense. Nathaniel Hackett, who is now the head coach and is apparently going to be calling plays whenever he's been an offensive coordinator or involved on the offensive side of things, they've thrown the ball 56% of the time. So I expect they're going to come out there and let Russell Wilson cook. I think it helps Javonte Williams out a ton because now you cannot just load up the box and try and stop him. And if they bring back Melvin Gordon, you have to not only give Russ respect in passing the ball, but what Russ can do with his legs. So it helps out Javonte Williams, and then obviously it helps out Cortland Sutton. He's been their deep threat. Russell Wilson, I think it's fair to say, is the best deep ball thrower in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, you can probably put Patrick Mahomes right there, but I think with that beautiful moonshot that he throws, it always hits his guys in stride. Look at what he did for Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I 100% think he can do that for Sutton and Jeudy, and I don't even love Jeudy that much as a player, but I think he raises both those guys up. We'll see with Albert O. I don't know. My other thing with that is if you also look at Nathaniel Hackett's offenses, granted, never really had to have a good tight end, especially when he was there in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers because they had Devontae Adams and those other wide receivers. They've never really had a very viable fantasy tight end. So I don't know that Albert O is going to do much for fantasy, but I think it raises Sutton and Tim Patrick, a guy nobody's talking about. I think Tim Patrick gets a major stock up as well.
The Robert Tonyan slander coming from no relevant tight ends coming from Green Bay. I agree though. The 2 years that DK Metcalf has been in the league with Tyler Lockett, they have both finished top 15 at their respective positions. So like that's a high ceiling. Just considering how low the passing volume was under Pete Carroll, we're looking at potential 2 top 15 wide receivers. I think we're looking at 2 top 20 wide receivers between Sutton and Jeudy. So, I mean, it's happened the last 2 years, and the Seahawks are way less pass happy than I think Denver will be this year.
So, potentially 2 wide receiver 2s, a potential running back 2 in Javonte Williams, potential running back 2 in Melvin Gordon if he returns. And Albert O could absolutely be a tight end 1. I mean, am I misreading that?
No,
Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing that changes for tight ends is touchdowns, right? Like, if he gets you 4 touchdowns, he's likely going to be a tight end 1, because outside of those top couple guys, it's the like 7 to 25 tight ends are only separated typically by like 10 or 11 points.
Okay. Mox, anything to close it out?
No, I'm
it looked like you were going to say something. I got a note. I got to set the scene, as you would say, Matthew. As Jarek was having that serious conversation about race, you went off camera and just your icon with eyebrows and antlers looking at the camera, where Jarek is just trying to have a serious discussion. This is why we can't get anywhere, because we're just a silly show. That's why.
I got a lot going on over here right now, so I got a lot going on.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not noticed, all of the Campus to Canton founders have blacked out their Twitter pages, and that's because listen to me, absolutely nothing is happening on March 14th, okay? Don't ask about it. There's really nothing to ask about, but nothing is going to happen on March 14th. However, I will tell you this. If you are not a subscriber to the website, you want to be a subscriber to the website, go ahead and get in now. For no reason, really. For no reason. Nothing is going to be happening on March 14th. Check out the YouTube page. Matthew Bruning Matthew Bruning is the Cal Ripken of podcasting. He's now podcasting every day, uploading spring practice reports. He decided to do that when we can't even get him to be awake for this entire show. So make sure you go check out the shows that he is awake for. Of course, the Fantasy Roundtable and the Spring Practice Report shows on the YouTube page. Subscribe to the YouTube page, and we always appreciate rates and reviews for this podcast, for the Campus to Canton podcast feed. 5-star rates and reviews. That is how you can show your support for this brand, for this company, for everything we're trying to do to bring Campus to Canton, to bring Devy to more people, to expand our influence. So we appreciate that. All right, Chris and Matt, we have to talk about the Combine because, Matthew, I mean, we started this show in 2020, in November of 2020, and I think, from the word go, we were down on the 2022 class. Were we wrong to do so? Do you have any regret about that following the Combine?
Not really, because we were down on the class, but we still talked a lot about the guys who performed well. Like, we've talked about Breece Hall was going to be, at least I did. I love Corey, who, by the way, we have not mentioned. If you were watching on YouTube, and if you haven't, check it out. Great new intro video that he did for the show. Was amazing. Thank you so much, Corey. He brought it up. We had a whole, it was a banging video. Thank you very much, Corey. We had a ranking summit last year, which I'm hoping we'll be able to bring back again this year, possibly with some of our other amazing members of the site. And I got murdered. Now, granted, probably somewhat okay with the fact that because I had Breece Hall over Bijan Robinson, but I kept talking about how much I thought Breece Hall was going to continue to produce. He's done it for 3 years, goes out there, smashes at the Combine, right? Austin's been talking about Treylon Burks for 2 years. Like, everybody's talking about Treylon Burks, and I was like, I was number one. Christopher Columbus himself was the first person I remember talking about Treylon Burks. We've been talking about these guys for years now, and I think we've been hitting on the right guys. Like, Zonovan Knight performing the way he did. He's a guy that I know a couple of you guys have talked about. Maybe we haven't talked about enough. I've been propping up Calvin Austin.
Tyler Algier performed well. We've highlighted Tyler Algier on this show. Sky Moore. Yeah. I mean, we've been on Sky Moore from a CFF perspective on this show. So, I mean, let's get some credit.
Yeah, I don't think we've underrated it, or it's a very good class, I think, at the top. But outside of that, you're probably looking at a lot of like guys who you'll be able to put in your lineups here and there, but they're not, I don't think, going to be staples in your fantasy lineup. So they're going to be guys you want to draft. You're going to be on your rosters, but I don't think are going to be massive producers for you. So I don't think that we did a bad job covering the class. It's just not as bad as other people have made it, I guess, because we've hit on the right guys.
Well, and Mox, feel free to weigh in on this. Let's talk specifically about Breece Hall. He has a RAS score of 9.95, ninth out of 1,519 running backs since 1987. That's the year I was born. Do you all think that he's on the level of Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, even LaDainian Tomlinson as an athlete?
I was fairly shocked by that number. I was a skeptic about how athletic he was because that number does not show up on film. Like, I am not a film guy, and I've seen enough Breece Hall to tell you that I was shocked that he was a top 10 running back in terms of RAS score since, like, what did you say?
Pretty much all time. I mean, did football exist before 1987?
No. So there we go. And Corey, who, if we're giving him shout outs tonight, was someone who said, hey, like, he's a little more athletic than you think he is. But I was surprised by that number. I didn't think he was that athletic. I don't think that shows up on his film. So it's nice to see that he has that, but I'm not sure it really moves the needle to like an elite tier that we're talking about. The Saquon Barkley's, the Jonathan Taylor's, the LaDainian Tomlinson's. Like, I don't think he's there, but he's definitely solidified himself, so I think, as the RB1 in this class.
Well, the RB1 in this class, Matthew, do you think he's walking into the NFL as a top 3 or 4 running back in Dynasty?
No, but 5, I would listen to an argument on. He is a guy that I've been saying it all. I mean, on the round table, I posted on Twitter, like, Breece Hall is the only running back in this class. And Kenneth Walker, amazing season. He was a guy that I've been touting for over a year. Isaiah Spiller, I know he didn't run. I still think he's a good running back. I'm not as worried about him not running in the 40 and everything because he's not going to have Breece Hall's speed or whatever that he showed, because I do agree with Moxley. He shows it at times on tape. He does have some like 70-yard runs, but he does get caught quite often as well. So it's there sometimes, but it's not consistent, I guess is the way I would put it. But Breece Hall is the only running back in this class, I believe, regardless of where he goes, is like just a set it and forget it guy every week in your lineup. But you're putting him in your lineup and it doesn't matter. Like you're okay. I know I'm going to get at least 12 to 14 points from him likely every single week, maybe more if he gets some extra catches and touchdowns. So yeah, Breece Hall with Christian McCaffrey possibly coming down, Dalvin Cook. We don't know what Saquon Barkley's going to be like. I haven't given up on him, but Giants are talking about trading him. So I think there's an argument to put Breece Hall at least at 5. I can't put him up above Taylor. I think I have Swift up there still because I believe in Swift. I know I'm trying to remember who the other running backs are now. Like I'm going through my head. I still wouldn't put him above CMC, although he could fall down. So like I have at least
Najee. That's really the cutoff for me.
I think he's a bit older. Isn't Breece Hall? What is he 20 or is he 21? He'll be 21 by the time the season starts.
Yeah, but the age part doesn't matter as much for me. That part, I hate to say it, landing spot would probably affect that a little bit for me because even though Pittsburgh's offensive line was not great, he's going to get so much volume. And I think he might get even more dump-off passes if Mason Rudolph or, God forbid, Dwayne Haskins is the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, like, I think Najee is going to smash regardless. So it kind of depends on where Breece goes. But he's right there, yeah. I would argue he's within that range right there.
He's my dynasty RB4 as of right now. I'm right there. I'm right there with you. I think there's a case for him to be RB5, and the only guys I'm having him above are young guys. So,
let me ask this question because I made a big statement a year ago in making Breece Hall my RB6. But if he was in college right now, wouldn't you still have him ranked behind Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Travion Henderson, at the very least?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah,
I think so.
If looking at my ranks now, he would actually probably be 6. Right now, my 4 and 5 are Nicholas Singleton and Will Shipley. I'd probably put him behind both of those. And Singleton, I think I'm taking.
You have Singleton where?
4. I believe in Singleton. 4 as my CCC
I thought I had him high at like 8 or 9. No, I got to move him up. Okay.
So, Zach Evans comes in at 6 for me. I'd feel comfortable putting Breece above Zach. So that's kind of where I would be. But again, I think the issue with it last year was you had him, and I will give you 100% credit. You had Isaiah Spiller ahead of him, and you've kind of come around differently on your opinion on Isaiah Spiller from that point. So that's, I think, where our biggest issue came from was like you're putting him all the way down there. Now, I'll also give you props on you had him below Jahmyr Gibbs, where a lot of us didn't. We saw what Gibbs did in that second season, and now he's probably going to smash even more at Alabama. So,
I did do a video on Isaiah Spiller and just kind of that's on the Dynasty Nerds Film Room YouTube page, so you can check that out. And I just was not impressed with the type of runner he was as a bigger athlete. He wasn't very physical. So, and we just recorded, or just here recently recorded, the same show for Breece Hall. So that's going to be released here soon on the Dynasty Nerds YouTube page. So, all right, we talked about who did well. Chris, Isaiah Spiller did not do well, the aforementioned Isaiah Spiller. A vertical jump of 30 inches, broad jump of just 114. Is he still a day 2 prospect? And Kenneth Walker or Isaiah Spiller?
So he's still a day 2 prospect for sure. I've been reading a bunch of NFL media takes post combine, and like Brugler, Warren Sharp, got guys who know a little bit about what the league is thinking. He's still the RB3. He still exists in that spot as of now, but he definitely hurt his stock with his burst score. So how burst score is generally calculated is a 50-50 weight of vertical jump and the broad jump. Both categories he performed poor in. So for his size, he had a 7th percentile burst score. That is 7 out of 100. That is incredibly poor. And for a running back, you want to see a lot better than that. And so, I was a guy who had Isaiah Spiller RB1 in the class up till maybe a month ago. And I am no longer there. I have Kenneth Walker above him. Kenneth Walker impressed me coming in at 211. I was worried about his size because Michigan State generally lists their running backs overweight based on a bunch of data that I've done historically. They generally weigh them, they list them 5 pounds above where they're at. I'm happy that he came in at 211. And I think I have him in my RB2. Like, I'm really worried about Isaiah Spiller right now. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of negative feedback on him as a prospect.
It's going to come down to draft capital for these guys.
Probably, yeah.
Breece Hall might have launched himself into the first round. Isaiah Spiller, Kenneth Walker, those are the next guys. I have no idea who the RB4 is going to be, and if there's going to be more
Rachaad White.
It's going to be your guy, Rachaad White. Yeah, I really think so. I hate to do that because I don't need Petty Felix to show up today without Austin here to help me out, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be
shoot
Rachaad
from deep. Your boy is shooting from deep. Okay. All right. No, I'm not going to gloat.
We've been out here.
And I was not on the show last week, so I'm trying to get a little bit of this out. Okay. Let's do 2 questions for Devy Debates, boys. Are we ready for the Devy Debates?
Born ready.
Good.
Chris Moxley, I'm going to throw this to you because Matthew already kind of answered this question because I'm bad at producing this show. Trading out of the true or false? Trading out of the 2022 class is or was a mistake. True or false?
It was not a mistake. So true. There is
Elaborate.
Yeah. I think the combine didn't move the needle at all, and I think we see high-end producers. I think there's a handful in this class. I think Breece Hall is one. Kenneth Walker's potentially one. I think we have 3, maybe 4 wide receivers. We don't really have a tight end because Trey McBride is tiny and not super athletic. It's a shallow class. It really is. So there's some high-end producers, but I think it's more akin to the 2019 class than it is anything else we've seen, which was the Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery class. I think Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller compares similarly to them. And then, we had A.J. Brown at wide receiver, but it was N'Keal Harry, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Marquise Brown, a bunch of, replaceable guys for your fantasy squad. And so I think that's kind of where we're sitting. I think that it was a good decision, especially if you were trading out of 2022 to get 2023 first, which I think we've been recommending on here for as long as episode 1 and we're on episode 76. So that's I think where we're at.
Pretty much. And let me just say that I think it depends on where those draft picks are. I still believe that it was the right move to trade out of 2022. But that being said, there are some players that I want in this class. I want Garrett Wilson. I want Sky Moore. I want Breece Hall. I want Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a value. I want Rachaad White, quite frankly. I mean, I could probably trade into the second round to get Sky Moore to get Rachaad White. So it depends on where you had those picks. Now, I think that trading them before being on the clock was probably a mistake because I think the consensus is, this is one of the most athletic classes ever. I think that the consensus out there is, you should have been in 2022, and that people like us who said to fade 2022 that we're wrong. So you may have been able to extract more value had you just waited until you're on the clock, at least for the first, 4 or 5 picks. But there's not a quarterback one. There's barely a running back two. So I still agree that 2022 was the correct move was to fade. Second question here. Matthew, true or false? Stock down on Treylon Burks following just a 4.55 40-yard dash and a 33-inch vertical jump.
Negative. I still think that he produced well for his size. He was not going to go out there and run a 4.28 or whatever Tyquan Thornton ran. His speed is evident on tape. And if you watch, and I believe it's the Alabama game, if I'm remembering correctly, he gets a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage on the 20-yard line and then proceeds to take it 80 yards past the entire Alabama defense and outrunning them, leaving most of those guys 5-10 yards behind him. It's evident on tape. He's raw. We've talked about that before, right? We know Garrett Wilson is a more pristine route runner, better wide receiver prospect right now. Drake London, I think you could argue that Chris Olave is a better route runner. But at the end of the day, I still think Treylon Burks has the highest upside of this class. And no, I have no issues with it. I'm going to give, I know Ray Garvin's brought it up, and then our guy, David, you can find him at Solving Football, posted, I think it was yesterday, that he compares very favorably to Josh Gordon coming out of college. And we know what Josh Gordon could have been had he not had some of the issues with addiction that he had off the field. Dude was an absolute monster with Cleveland, and it wasn't Brandon Weeden. God forgive me. I don't remember who the horrible quarterback was we had at that point in time, but it was a bad quarterback. It wasn't Brian Hoyer the Destroyer either. And for the life of me, I can't remember who it is now. He took us almost to the playoff. That was like our last winning season before Baker showed up. We were 10-6. And Derek Anderson.
Was it Derek Anderson? I was just about to say it was Derek Anderson.
Yeah. Derek Anderson. So yeah, Traylon Burks, I think coaching's going to matter, right? Because he is still a little bit raw, but I am not fading him one bit. He's still my wide receiver one, just slightly ahead of Garrett Wilson. I'm still all in on Burks.
I am right there with you. And big wide receiver guy and Solving Football have both talked about this. David and Matt, who are associated with us and do excellent job with some of this video analysis in terms of miles per hour.
They're on our team. They're more than associates. They are on our team.
They are the best. And they clocked him at 22.6 miles per hour, which basically converts to like a 4.2-ish speed. It takes Burks time to ramp up. Like, this is a big dude. When he's coming downhill, he's like a freight train rolling. You do not want to get in his way. The only loser out of Burks' combine, in my opinion, is this weird story, which I don't even know how it got started, about how he has like 5XL gloves and his hands like can't fit in normal gloves. This dude's, his hands are smaller than Sky Moore, and Sky Moore like 5'10". Like, what is that story? But realistically, I'm not moving off of Burks because his speed score for his size at 225 is still 87th percentile. And yeah, like his explosiveness in terms of the broad jump and the vert are questions, but that's not really his game. His game is like build up speed and then separate deep. That's how he'll be using the NFL. I'm not moving off of him because it didn't tell me anything that I didn't know. Maybe I thought he was going to run a 4.4, but whatever. We're still dealing with an 87th percentile speed score. So whatever. Our wide receiver one, I'm not overreacting.
I don't know that my wide receiver rankings changed at all based on the combine. Do people really think that 4.55 is not fast when you're 220 pounds? I mean, get out of here.
Apparently so.
Get out.
I will add, someone did fall down my ranks a little bit at wide receiver. Someone you mentioned, and I saw Chris's face as well, so I'm curious as to why. Wandale. The fact that he came in so small, I didn't move him down far. I think he was like 11 for me, so I dropped him down to like 13 or 14. But the fact that he was listed, I think, on Kentucky's website was like 5'10" or 11. He came in at, what was it, 5'8", 178? Like,
three inches taller and 7 pounds lighter.
I know I've been preaching that stuff with Calvin Austin, and they've gone toward drafting these smaller guys, but I think Calvin Austin's more athletic and explosive, so I think Austin's going to get better draft capital now than Wandale. So I actually don't think you'd have to trade up into the second to get him like you were talking about, Felix. You could probably get Wandale in the third now because it seems everybody's fading him. He's the only one that fell a little bit for me because he tested a little bit and came in more than I thought, less than what I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, see, I've always thought of Wandale as a Cole Beasley, Doug Martin type that is going to be drafted like late day 2, early day 3 anyway. But I still like his skill set. I mean, he's got the quick twitch separation ability to be a slot wide receiver, be a high volume guy. Nothing really changed about that. I mean, we saw the picture of him and Rondale Moore standing next to each other. We're like, all right, they're going to be the same size. Rondale Moore was drafted in the second round. As long as he gets the draft capital, I personally don't think that it's going to matter that much. Now, he may become a value, like you said, Matthew. You may be able to get him a little bit later in drafts.
It depends where you had him ranked, because I had him as like a top 6 guy. And I'm moving him way down just because he came in 3 inches smaller. And his he ran a 4.44, which at his size is a 23rd percentile speed score. His 34-inch vert isn't really going to cut it. Like, he has a 32nd percentile burst. Like, we didn't get any of his agility testing, so I don't know how that matters. That matters a lot more for the role I think he's going to be used in the NFL. So I'm really curious to see what he does at Kentucky's Pro Day, because I think that's going to tell us maybe a little bit more about his true athleticism. But I was discouraged by his size at 5'8", and I was discouraged by his testing because he did not live up to the expectations that maybe I had.
Well, you're going to have to tune into the after show so I can explain why I disagree with both you and Mike Valerie, who's in the comments chirping it up, saying that he didn't test well. I don't have a problem with Wandale's testing. All right, that is going to be our show. Make sure you check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family. That includes the YouTube page. That includes the podcast feed. We are at the point I need to count how many hours of content we are producing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Stay tuned in with Campus to Canton. We really got you. We got you covered here. You can find this podcast on the Campus to Canton channel, along with Canton Bound, Campus Life Fantasy Roundtable. The Future Freshman podcast that Brandon is doing. I need to update this show sheet. All right, so check out everything
every Monday.
Chasing the Natty on Mondays. Yes, I need to update this thing because we've got a lot of stuff going on. All right, but that's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. For Chris Moxley and Matt Bruning, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night. And the Daily Draft Report. Jeez, I wrote the show sheet really late, so I did not update. I need to update the outro.
That was an efficient show.
It's the off season, you know.
Man,
we're here for the people, though.
We've been hitting like 60 minutes most days, and so
we have
40's a good one for us.
Well, look, Matthew's already yawning, already going to be like, I'm not going to upload the show tonight.
So, no, he's going to be like, I'm getting off early and then stay on for
so I will upload
minutes.
the show as long as we are off here in the next 40 minutes. That gives Mike a time to come on here for 40 minutes and
did you send him the link?
Mike,
did you send him the link?
I thought
you got to send him the link.
I assumed you did. So hang on one second.
All right, I'm going to tell you why I don't. While we're waiting for Mike, who we have been handing off the show as we attempt to develop our roster of people in all aspects, our writers, people doing really everything for us, including being on-air talent. Look at me. I'm sounding like I'm some sort of like this is a television show. I mean, I guess it is, but we're trying to develop. We are trying to develop, the people who are talking in front of microphones and get a deeper bench there. And so we've been tossing it to Mike. It's Mike's after show, and so we'll hand the baton to him as soon as he gets here. But Wan'Dale Robinson is one of these. All right, so there's a spectrum of wide receiver that includes Deontay Johnson and Hunter Renfrow and Calvin Ridley. They are just guys who are Antonio Brown is at the highest end of that spectrum. There are guys where their testing doesn't really matter because it's very hard to stay with them. They just move so fast. They move like pinballs. And I think that that's what Wan'Dale is. So I don't really care that, he ran you guys say he tested poorly. He ran a 4.40. He ran a 4.4 something. Oh, but because he's 5'8", he has to run a 3.9. Oh, so what do we bring in?
Okay, first off, how dare you?
Okay. How dare I what, Mike?
How dare you say that Wan'Dale is on the same level as Rondale? Well, they rhymed. That's great.
Who is that dude?
I'm getting my hat game ready for Corey so we can show up with hats. He wears a fedora once in a while, so I'm really rolling the dice here.
Oh shoot! I knew it was all right. I'll be right back. I gotta get my hat game.
Oh, is Corey coming on too? I didn't send him the link.
Yeah, Corey is coming on. He's Mike's guest. Mike, we're handed the baton off to you. Mike is wearing his gold rimmed sunglasses and his fedora and his Hawaiian shirt. He's ready for vacation. And
has someone sent Corey the link by any chance?
Not me, because I don't have that control.
That's what I need now. I will send it to him right now.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. He would appreciate that. The Devy team appreciates that.
Oh my goodness.
I really don't think Wan'Dale gets the same draft capital anymore because of the athletic testing. I am a big size matters guy, and so for guys that are small, I need them to be like athletically elite. Otherwise, I'm not really interested.
That I agree with Mike. That's what I'm worried about. I don't really have an issue with his testing. I didn't like that he came in at 5'8", but we also don't see a ton of wide receivers who are 5'8" get drafted. It's usually like one or two. It's usually been one. Now, last year we had Tutu and Rondale. And again, you got Calvin Austin who came in around the same size, so I think showed out better at the combine that if he gets drafted first, I don't know that Wan'Dale gets day 2 draft capital. So if he goes, like, let's just say he goes late 3rd, early 4th, I don't think it's a massive thing for him, but that goes back to us saying, like, I think you can get him at a value then at that point. You don't have to take him in the 2nd round of your rookie draft. I'm still willing to bet on him. I just don't know that I'm taking him that early anymore, and he fell a little bit because of that.
I still agree with Felix, though, about, like, Wan'Dale's, like, tape and how he played. Like, he played great. I just think he has, like, I mean, when I watched him play, because I'm a Kentucky fan, so I watched, like, every game, he had, like, short little arms. He got caught from behind all the time. I'm like, you know.
Yeah, but that's not his game is like getting open quickly, in my opinion. And I think that's what he's good at. So I still like him.
I do like him more than Calvin Austin. I'm out on Calvin Austin. I think he's like last time I did my rankings, which was like a month ago, he was wide receiver 40 for me. I'm not touching Calvin Austin. Just so you know.
Rookie wide receiver 40?
Yeah.
Mike, you got to introduce your guest so the audience
knows
who you're talking to. Who's talking?
Everybody, welcome to the after show. Corey's got a little jingle coming up next week for us for the after show. Don't worry about it. Corey, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself to the crowd.
What's up, Mike? What's up, Felix? What's up, Matt? Thanks for having me. Mike invited me on an impromptu thing here, so I'm just here winging it. Just came to say hi to you guys. The intro video looked banging. That looked awesome. It was good to see that. My hat looks banging too. I didn't do the fedora though, so sorry about that. But
I knew I was gonna lose the bet because I knew you got that hat in the mail. I knew you were gonna wear it. But
I had to, yeah.
Thought I'd try.
Corey P FF _ guitarist on Twitter, formerly a Breakout Finder, still working with Devy Deep Dive, and we are so happy to have him here at campustocanton.com. He's rocking the C2C fitted cap, representing for the brand. Corey, thanks for coming.
Don't sell him short either. He is our Devy team lead over at the website as well. So he's the Devy king for us. He's running all the secret projects behind the scenes. So
thank you guys for that introduction. You guys introduced me better than I introduced myself. So
well, Mike didn't, and it's Mike's show. So
yeah, Mike, what the hell, man?
Mike is.
Well, I mean, you just heard it. You could hear the jealousy in Mike's voice right there. He said, "For now," like I think he's coming for that throne, so he was trying to undercut you a little bit. I think that's what it was.
Wait until it gets out where he ranked Benjamin Eurosek, tight end extraordinaire. Way too low.
Tight end 9, I think. I got him at 9 right
now.
Oh,
you moved him up from 17 last time I bothered you?
Yeah, see, yeah, but I didn't even finish those rankings though. I just moved guys up. Like tight ends was like the last one I was doing. I just moved guys up that I knew I was gonna rank, and then I was gonna fix it all up. But yeah, he ended up at 9 for me, I think. So
I loved how everyone at C2C procrastinated on doing their rankings. Also, in the chat gets all lively, and everyone's doing them the last.
You need the most information available to be able to finish your ranks at the last minute, man. You finished them like 4 weeks ago. You already changed them. Like fucking, you had to change them today now.
I adjust to my information. I get in there early. All right.
Where do you have the tight end from Stanford? Because I will butcher his last name. I'm just curious.
Yeah, Benjamin Eurosek.
That's who he was talking about. Yeah, we have him at 9. Yeah, I have him at 9.
I have him at 5, I believe.
At 5, yeah, okay.
Where do you have Elijah Arroyo?
Oh man, hold on. I can't have it open right here even. Arroyo, I have at 15.
I have him in the 20s. I'm pretty sure.
Jeez. I have 21. 9. I must be way off compared to what you two think.
No,
I've got him at 9.
I have him up there too.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Skinner a lot too, so I don't know how that's all gonna break out there. But
he's too skinny.
He is skinny. That doesn't matter for college though. He's still gonna play.
Well, I'm doing it for Devy. I'm doing Devy rankings.
So that's my reason for dropping Arroyo because I don't think he's. I don't know. I'm not sold on him yet. Anyways, he didn't even do anything. So.
I saw Matt had Brant Keith or Keith, whatever, like our tight end 6, I think. He's like, I think so. Yep. Yeah, you literally tweeted about it today. So.
Oh yeah, the other day. Oh yeah, I didn't tweet out my stuff. Yeah, I still believe in him. He's produced every year at Utah. I don't give a fuck how old he is.
He's just too small. I'm not about it. Tight end's got to be 6'4" or higher for me to really care.
Well, there's you and then there's me. So.
No, that's true. You like the smaller guys. I've been noticing that for you lately. Like you don't care about size. You don't care about size.
Well, I mean, Matthew is like
if you met me in person, I'm all about short people. You know, I got to advocate for me and Colin because we're looking up at everybody, unfortunately.
I was always taller than all my friends. My dad would call my short friends my PP pals for pint size.
I'm glad that you clarified that. So.
Thanks. All right, Corey, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
Do you consider yourself a hat guy? I think this is kind of self-explanatory, but I just need you to say it out loud.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I got to tell you a story here because I'm going to become a hat guy here pretty soon too.
Okay.
I'm not quite where Felix is, but I think I'm thinning a little in the back, and my wife is lying to me about it. And I think she's been lying to me about it for months, right? And I used to be in the Army. And if you've ever been around military guys, they're not very good about putting filters on their mouth. It gets me in a lot of trouble. I got one kid I like picked up from like jail like 3 times. I think of him like a son. But he comes up to the back of me and he's just like, "Damn, so aren't you thinning back here?" And I was like, "Damn." I was like, "Oh no." And I immediately called my wife and I'm like, "You lied to me. I asked you about this last week." She's like, "What do you want me to say?" I'm like, "The truth. I just want you to tell me the truth." So I got to get into hats, and I want to know why you pick your style of hats the way you do. You don't do baseball caps. I've never seen you wear a visor. The fedora game, I haven't seen you wear a fedora anymore.
They should probably stop. But you wear a visor still?
Sometimes depends on the day.
It's sunny out, I guess. No, but I don't know. I never liked the way basketball or baseball caps kind of fit me either. Like with the bent beak, I've always been a straight beak guy. I don't really know why. It's just the one I chose, man. The one that I think suits me the best. But yeah, I mean, mine is going too, but it's shaved. But it's my peaks are starting to come in pretty bad, and
hey, it's okay. I'm gonna be there right there with you in a year or two. I swear.
Yeah, but
Mike, where can the folks get that sexy hat that Corey has on?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna defer to Chris. Chris, please let us know where we can find that.
You can get it at the merch page on the Campus to Canton website. You can get it on the merch page on the Campus to Canton website. And Hannah is still with us in the comments. Hannah, you are always welcome here at the after show. If you want to join us, we can shoot you the link. So
I could have gotten that.
She has it. I sent it to her and Mike in the same DM again. Like Colin gets a DM every single week to come on the show because he's in one of the chats with Moxley, and it's just easier for me to just find the top one and click and post. So
okay. Mike doesn't even get his DM. He has to share it.
I just want to say I would have gotten the answer right, Felix, if I had access to the website sooner than December after being here since like June.
Well, I put you on the spot, so
that's okay.
But we didn't even talk about Alfred tonight. We were gonna say that he how he doesn't listen.
I am distracted by Alfred's picture. I'm distracted by not Alfred. I'm sorry, Jarek's picture in the chat for the YouTube page. I'm like trying to zoom in on my screen because I'm trying to see what it looks like. I think Jarek
is something with his wedding.
Is he pole vaulting?
No, he pole vaulted in college. Yeah, he's a pole vaulter. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
What
he's doing in this picture. Yeah,
Jarek also secretly tall.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Everybody is. He is. I think everybody is over 6 foot except for like me, Colin, and Moxley.
I am like 5'8", so like I'm pretty fucking short.
Okay,
yeah. I can't draft you. I can't draft you.
I need you to show up to the. I need you to show up to the expo then, Corey. So I don't
just
have
to stand next to you
anymore. Yeah, exactly.
100%. I just want to elaborate. You guys don't know how many times I've DM'd Jarek. Say Jarek. And Jarek, in fairness, Jarek he's a data guy. He wants to be precise. He does not like doing stuff live. And so for the shows during the college football season, the by the numbers segments were recorded. But I've asked Jarek, I mean, hundreds of times to come on and talk about something. He just ignores me. And so I asked him to come on and talk about this race thing with the data. I was like, there's just no way that he's going to come on. I DM'd him on Monday. Gets back to me 20 minutes before the show starts today. Said he's coming. I'm like, what? This is the thing that he's going to come on and talk about. So I really appreciate Jared coming on.
Awesome.
He's passionate about it. He had a lot of opinions on it. So it was a good segment.
He may be very busy with some very important things that may have been mentioned earlier in the show. If you guys watched the Devy debate, Felix may have alluded to some stuff that Jared has been working on. So
yep.
And he's got a young one at home too, which has been killing me, man. So I can understand that. It's hard to get anything done with one running around. Or I think his is even younger than mine, somewhere like 6 months or 7 months or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm terrified to have kids. Am I the only one that doesn't have kids here?
I don't.
You know what? The world is terrified for you to have kids, Mike. So it's probably
I'm terrified. I have a puppy, and I'm like, this is too much. I can't do it.
I'm in the same boat as you, Mike. Don't worry.
He just stares at me. I'm like, what are you staring at? You want to go? I'm like, and then he thinks it's playtime, and I'm like, no, that's what I'm talking about.
Have you seen that sketch? God, I don't even remember what show it is where he's like, when the baby's looking at him, he's like, hey, you want to go? You want to fight? He's like, it's just a baby.
Yeah. I have. Dude,
that's my...
Kids scare me too because have you guys seen Alien vs Predator or any of the Predator Alien movies? Any of them?
Yeah.
Okay. How are the aliens not basically a C-section?
Don't they burst out of your chest?
What?
So I mean, it's a
They burst out of the stomach. It's
no,
they burst out of the stomach.
No, they burst out of the chest. They're called chest bursters. They burst out of your chest.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm sorry.
You're talking about after the face huggers
process.
impregnate you, they come out of your chest, not your stomach.
Yeah.
Sure, whatever. The whole process terrifies me.
Categorically different.
It terrifies me too. I am terrified of those movies, and I'm going to be honest. I'm probably going to offend some women here, but like when the baby kicks in the stomach, it terrifies me because I think of the Alien movie as well. So I understand that part, but it comes out of the chest, not the stomach.
Okay,
if my wife had C-sections. It's completely different. I was there.
Time out. We're off track. We are all talking about how scared we are of children, and we're not even the one birthing them. So like, maybe a little bit.
That's
different
just because we
are
are inferior. We are inferior.
Hey, the record reflected I'm not a part of this conversation here.
I'm gonna switch back over to football for a little bit. so we can get back on track.
Let's do that.
I got two
off mic. That's the name of your podcast.
I got two daily questions for. That was actually a nickname of mine in college. But anyway, I have a question for Corey here. Two questions here. You can start. Everyone else can chime in. Yeah. So Devin Neal, right? I think everyone here has Devin Neal probably inside their top 20 for Devy or C2C. Okay, not Chris, but I think I keep moving him down, but I think he's at like RB16 for me. My issue with Devin Neal is that I do think that Kai Thomas eats into his workload. Like I believe in Devin Neal, but I think it's going to be put off a little bit by Kai Thomas being there. And I want to know what your opinion is about Kai Thomas transferring over to Kansas and where you see Devin Neal going in his college career.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that too. Like, I think Kai Thomas is an okay player. I really like Devin Neal as a prospect, though, and I think maybe that's where it comes from too, where I think that maybe he projects better to the NFL with his athleticism, the size he's at. I was hoping that he was probably going to be the lead guy there for a while, and I probably do have a little bit more faith in that than you. I mean, he came on pretty strong last year and looked pretty good. So I think really it comes down to the fact that I'm probably lower on Kai Thomas than you, because maybe you think that he eats more into that workload than I actually do.
I'd have to check. He's not that high. I think he's like in the 50s or 60s, maybe a little less than that. But anyone else want to chime in on that on the top?
I think you're right. I mean, Kai Thomas performed well at the end of the season last year for Minnesota, but I forgot the coach's name there. At Kansas.
PJ. Lance
Leopold.
Yes, Lance Leopold. He had two productive backs at Buffalo between Jared Patterson and Kevin. Geez, these names just fade so fast. Yes, Kevin Marks. Yeah. Kevin Marks. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to be the number one or number two. I do think that Devin Neal has potential. I mean, was an excellent receiver in high school. Was very good as a true freshman at a below average Power 5 school. So he showed already. I mean, I don't know that it necessarily matters for his Devy value, for Devin Neal's Devy value. I think that he's still on track to be, a potential draft pick. Now, when is he going to be drafted? Who's to say? But I think that he performed well enough last year that he's still on that track.
I actually like the offense too. Like I'm pretty interested in Jalen Daniels, who's there. I think he'll be their starting quarterback this year. I don't think it's going to be Jason Bean. I just don't think Bean has it all. They've actually talked about moving him to a different position. I could see him being a wide receiver. He's pretty athletic. He just doesn't really have what it takes to be a quarterback. So Jalen Daniels is a guy who I think could lead this offense to another level that isn't Kansas level, which is like the bare minimum. But it's an interesting offense. I think I actually want pieces of.
I like Jared Casey there at tight end. I'd like put it in the chat a little, just like as a late round stash for CFF production. But I'm with you. Kansas was like a nice offense for the first time ever. All right, my next question here is going to be because I struggle with this. So again, anyone can chime in here. I have a hard time really giving the Devy value to Rashid Ali and then Lou Nichols. Those two guys. I have a hard time. I don't know what to do. I see Ali's like numbers, like his height. I'm a big size guy. Like I look at his height. Like he's 6'2". First off, there's no way he's 6 foot. I'm thinking he's more like 5'10". But I don't know. You take it away, Corey. What do you think about those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, if he is 200 already, that's not a bad weight to already start at, and already be pretty productive. It's a tough one. I made a tweet about it a little while ago that I kind of related it to like the Sincere McCormick thing, where he kind of had the explosive freshman season and everybody kind of jumped up and jumped on his train. And I could kind of see Ali being the new Sincere McCormick that everybody kind of talks about in terms of value, not really the same type of player. But I mean, you like watch his tape and he's outrunning everybody on the field. He's pretty quick. He shows some toughness, but you're right. I mean, and the numbers don't work well for guys who are not in the Power 5 making it to the NFL at running back. And things aren't in his favor right now, but I think he's going to be one of these guys that sticks around. So like when I'm ranking him, I'm kind of ranking him like modestly, I guess. Like, where do I have him? What number is this? My numbers aren't showing up for some reason. All right.
Well, I have Rasheen at 14 and Lou Nichols at 16, and Devin goes at 17.
See, I'm lower. I have him at 27 right now.
Wow.
So I'm like, so I do get worried. I just proactively always right away. I always just kind of hold back on guys that are coming from a lower level of competition like that. It's hard for me to rank them higher. I don't think, I can't do it to myself yet until I see. The only guy that I have ranked higher that isn't from a Power 5 school is McGaskill right now. But at the same time, I mean, Houston is going to join the Big 12. I don't know when, possibly in 23. I think he's a special player too. I think Moxley's pretty high on him too. I mean, this guy had offers from like every big school that you could think of, from Bama, from everybody, and he didn't. He ended up staying close to home at Houston, so I can't really fault him for that. I find him an interesting conversation because it's going to be hard to decide what to do with the fact that he might be playing in Power 5 by the time he does get drafted. So there's kind of going to be some context to him. I don't know how to treat that, but I think he's a nice player. I really do.
All right.
I have Lou Nichols as a top 10 back in C2C, but I would have him as a top 10 back in Devy also. I mean, he's listed as at 220. Yeah, I do. He's listed at 220. Even if he's 215, moving the way he does, I just think that he is a good player. And I know it's difficult to make the jump. We've seen it from Kareem Hunt in the same conference. I just think that Lou Nichols is a really, really good player.
That offensive line was so good last year. Like, they're losing two. They're losing. Raymond is probably a day one. Probably a top 20 pick. They're also losing another lineman who I think could probably go day 2. So I'm really curious to see how Central Michigan performs this year, especially with Kobe Lewis coming back. I think that could hurt Lou Nichols. I don't know. I really liked Lou Nichols heading into last year, and I'm more on the pump the brakes this year because his value's just risen so much. The same way I feel about Rasheen Ali. Like, I really liked Rasheen Ali at the beginning of the year, and now I think we've gotten a little too ahead of him because I think he's a good receiver. I think he's a good rusher. But, like, I don't know what his ceiling is at the NFL level. Like, I think he's probably a day 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. I don't think I'm taking I don't think there's a 5-star running back that I'd ever have ranked ahead of him. Even if he's like an incoming freshman who I don't like the situation of. And I don't know, like, I have not worked on those ranks recently, so I can't tell you where I have him ranked. But I'll tell you that I would not take any 5-star running back above him with certainty. And I don't know how that all fits in or who the 5-star running backs are this year. So I could just be staying stupid shit.
Oh, finally, Felix leaves. Couldn't stand the guy. Jeez. I was just playing. Oh, my next question is for kind of actually what the show just talked about a little bit. But Corey, how much does the combine matter to you for Devy?
I don't know. Things might move like within tiers, maybe, but I don't think anything moves drastically. I like it as a confirmation of things that we already kind of saw. like a guy like Traylon Burks you guys were talking about, like it doesn't change much for me either. Like the initial shock of it was kind of like, damn, like what am I going to do with this guy now? Now he's not the freak athlete that maybe I thought he might be or might test like. And then like, you kind of settle down from it and you're like, wait, like everything else that I saw on tape tells me that's going to be, he deserves to be like in the top 2 conversation. Like I have him in a tier at the top with Garrett Wilson and himself, upside if you want to go to Burks, safety or something if you want to go with Garrett Wilson, because Burks is a little bit more of a raw prospect. But no, it's just a confirmation of things for me. Nothing really drastically is going to change. Like even with David Bell, like I was already pretty low on him. I kind of didn't think he was going to test the best either. So I wasn't very surprised by that. But yeah, it's more confirmation for me.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. I like the preset tiers, and I just move them into tiers. I finally succumbed and moved Drake London up to 4. I still don't believe in him. I know I'm the only one, but whatever. And then I didn't move up. I didn't move up Chris Olave at all. I didn't. So
I don't think I had him in too bad of a spot already. I think like 7 or 8 or something like that. But I do have London at 3 right now. But okay, just I've seen a lot of things that I like from London. Like I was kind of low on him last year. When you watched him last year, it was a lot of like force-fed slots, targets out of the slot where he was kind of run like. And this year he moved on to the outside, which I thought he did pretty good. I think he's more finesse than people give him credit for. I think he's more of a fluid athlete than people give him credit for. Like when you're watching some of the things, when you watch when he does things off the line, like I don't know. I think he's I think he's good player.
Where do you have? Are you talking about Drake London? Right. Sorry, I'm like listening to my kids like murder people over here. Where do you have him ranked within this wide receiver class?
I'm sorry. What?
3 right now.
Oh, we're all. I told you I got all kinds of shit going on over here tonight.
We're bringing it back to Coney 2012 over here.
You have him 3, you said?
Yeah, I have him at 3. Yeah.
Okay, that's where I have him as well.
I
agree. He creates separation within his route better than some of the other guys do in this class. I think people underrate him because he's not that burner. Like he creates separation in the route at the catch point. He doesn't have to create that 5 yards of separation like Burks can when he gets going downfield, or Garrett Wilson because he's such a damn good route runner. Like London's going to be good. I have him at 3 as well. He's the last of I have 3 guys in my tier 1, and it's Burks, Wilson. They're very close, and then London's a tad bit behind those 2, but he's my last guy in tier 1.
Okay. Yeah, and I see exactly the same thing. Was in between that like 0 to 8 yard range, like what he was doing to gain separation in that range. Like I thought I was blown away because I expected him to be more of a sluggish, more physical or whatever. And I actually think he's more finesse in that area than physical. He figures out a way to gain separation off of his release, and then he's not going to be a burner like you said, but he finds other ways to get the separation. So, and if Slovis could actually deliver him some balls in freaking stride, it would have helped.
Yeah, and I think he's more athletic than he gets credit for too. Everybody just looks. I think it's because everybody just looks at him as this big contested catch guy. Because if you go, and I don't want to say that everybody does this, but like if you just go look at his highlights, like that's what a lot of it was when he was in the slot because of what you just mentioned. Like Slovis is just throwing it up, and London's going up and getting it. But if you go look at what he did this year before he got hurt, where he was absolutely dominating. He creates separation in the route. That's what I found more impressive. And he can go up and get it with his basketball background and everything. So I do think he's going to – I understand that it seems like the NFL's moving away from those contested catch guys, but I think London is more than that. Like, it's a part of his game, but it's not the main part of his game.
Okay, so here's my side, is that I don't see that. I still see a lot of screen plays, which is like nice, but I don't really care. It doesn't really showcase your route running ability. I think he pushes off at the top a lot. I see where he gets separation at the top of his routes, but I rather guys get separation with their feet. That's my preference in players. And talking about the bash run background, like this is my big issue with like when the combine happens, is like I'm sure he can jump and get up for the ball, but there's not a lot of plays where he does that because he's already so tall anyway. So like last year, for example, Diami Brown, right? He had the best vertical in the class. I think it was like 39 inches, if I'm remembering correctly. But when I watched, and you guys, this is like before I knew you guys, so if you guys correct me, because you probably watched a lot more football than me then. When I watched Diami Brown play, he wasn't going vertical for much. He didn't really showcase it in his game. And I'm just kind of there like, why are people toting his vertical when he doesn't even utilize it in his game? So I'm pretty against the combine. I only care about the combine when one, you have a super terrible score like Kyron Williams. Like now I'm concerned, but like,
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
but like besides
I mean-
that, like I'm moving around in tiers. And then for me with Drake London, I thought he looks clunky and not. I don't see the separator in him, and that's really what I care about.
So Mike, you actually brought up a good question earlier that I think is an interesting conversation of when did everyone move off of David Bell? Because I think he's a really good example of fantasy Twitter holding on to someone who they shouldn't be for way too long. Like,
okay,
the breadcrumbs were there like a year ago. Like we saw this coming a year ago. Like this is not new. And so I'm just like, he's a good example of someone that fantasy Twitter just thinks they're way smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a route. I'm going to rant here. Because it gets me so annoyed. So I hit Twitter, right, because I thought everyone else's takes were just incorrect all the time. Like, no, I gotta get out there and let people know what I think. And now that I'm there, I'm still mad because I still think everyone's wrong all the time. It makes me so frustrated. I don't think people watch film. I think they just want to make their charts and look at the data guys and be like, well, this is what it is. And then they're like, yep. And then they see the combine. I don't think people actually watch football anymore. I think they just want to look at their sheets and that's that. But with David Bell, I actually do like David Bell, and I knew he wasn't athletic. And so everything that happened at the combine was actually a little disappointing, to be honest with you, but still was kind of like where I had him at anyway. I think he's a Tyler Boyd. I don't think he's anything too special. I think he's going to be a great player, but I don't think he's going to be a stud or anything.
He's less dynamic, less athletic Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I agree. I can agree with that. Yeah.
I think he's going to go round 3. Like, I don't think he's going round 2. Like, I think he's going round 3. I'd be surprised. Maybe an analytically inclined franchise might take him round 2, but like,
even if he goes round 3, that's good draft capital. Like, I don't think he's going to be. I've always said, like, I think he's got a shot to be a wide receiver 3 for fantasy, like, because he's just good at everything. Like, just because he's not great, especially if he gets some kind of volume. That's probably true if you get the volume, but like, I think because he's so good at everything, but he's not great, right? Like, I think that's my biggest argument with him. I think, like, I'm not comparing him as a prospect because I like Rashad Bateman more. Like, I think he's going to be the Rashad Bateman of this class, that because he doesn't do anything great, everybody's just like, oh no, he sucks. And they're dropping him out of like his top 10 because he didn't do well at the combine. And I think he's going to go in the NFL. He's going to be better than a lot of people are giving him credit for.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do think wide receiver 3 is pretty realistic. That's why landing spot matters to me. Like, let's say he goes to like the Eagles. I don't think Jalen Hurts can even support one guy, so I'm out. But if he goes to like the Patriots, where they just want to throw it to the guy in the slide and throw it short every time, I like that for David Bell. I'm there for it.
You know who David Bell is? He's this year's Tyler Johnson.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying that. I'm not. He
might legitimately go day 3. I would, if David Bell fell out of day 2, I would not be surprised. I've been off him for a long time because the NFL has literally told us for a year that they don't like him. So like, why are we like, I just don't think, I think there's a 50-50 shot he goes day 2. Like, I really don't think that there's like, I'm way more skeptical than I think the majority.
I would not be surprised if he ends up on like round 4. I wouldn't be shocked by it. I was low on him, but I was giving him some kind of a little bit of respect for the analytic profile because it's something that I try to include more and more in my process anyway. So
yeah, I include it.
Yeah, I was giving him a little bit of respect for that. And and like Matt was saying, he does do things that are good, but like, he's not a sudden guy. He's not somebody who's quick twitch. He's not somebody who gains a ton of separation at the top of his routes either. Like, he's not the type of player the NFL seems to be looking for nowadays. So.
I think he's just not the most, but like one of the most technically sound receivers. I think he has so many good fundamentals and basics, and
his best attribute, in my opinion, is his contested catchability. And when a player's best attribute is their contested catchability, that is not a player that I want to be investing in. Like, to me, that's a bad thing. That tells me that you can't separate.
Yeah, and when you see people,
you can't get open. Basically, you're forced to make contested catches.
When you see people try to defend him now too on Twitter, and every comment, it's like, well, it's Keenan Allen. Well, Jerry Rice ran a 4.7, and this guy ran. And it's like,
the combine people.
It's like all these anomalies and all these guys who ran slow. Like, you pick.
I'm gonna flip over my table.
I was gonna say, I don't care about the combine. Like, he was already being like this is, like I said, this has been a year coming. Like this should not.
None
be
of this
surprising
information
to
is
anyone.
new. All right, this is gonna sound super smug, but I am now like a Devy contributors are elite over the regular contributors because they know they're actual prospects. Like
the one thing, because I want to defend David Bell just a little bit. Like I think it's what Mike you just said, because he is so technically sound, and I think he is, in all honesty, probably right there with Garrett Wilson as like two of the best route runners in this class. That's where I think he'll be able to create that separation. Like I'm not going to compare him to Keenan Allen because Keenan Allen is his own thing. Like everybody says this next guy's Keenan Allen. It never happens, right? We've only gotten one Keenan Allen. But if he goes to a quarterback that can get him the ball, I do with the way he can create separation, especially in the short area. Like he's very smart. He always seems to find holes in the coverage. Like I really think that he can produce for fantasy. Again, he's never going to be a wide receiver 1, and he's probably never even going to be a wide receiver 2. But in as deep leagues as most of us play in, like that wide receiver 3, that third flex spot matters. I do think David Bell can do that. If he goes, like Mike said, to the Patriots, well, they'll feed the slot. Or if he goes to, I'm trying to think of a team if he goes to the Browns with fucking that stud Baker Mayfield. No, I'm kidding. I'm trying to think of like a good offense. Like if he goes to the Packers and he's paired with
the
Devontae
Chargers.
Adams.
Someone's got to go to the Chargers.
Well, I don't know if he goes to the Chargers. I'd hate to see him because I think he would. With them bringing back Mike Williams.
They resigned Mike Williams. Like, I don't know if it's...
I'm out. Like, what? Mike Williams had, like, one hot streak of 5 games this year, and last year he had a hot streak of 4 games. Like, I feel like he's inflated.
All 5 shares of Mike Williams after that stretch. It was so glorious. Oh, man. Finally, a sell window.
I did. I sold him for Curtis Samuel that, like, 2 seasons ago. I was super hyped about it. It's not great.
That hasn't worked out.
Yeah, that one doesn't sound very good.
What if he goes to Buffalo to replace Cole Beasley? Because they seem to be moving on from him. They got Gabe Davis on the outside with Stephon Diggs and then David Bell in the slot. Like, there's places he could go that I think he's going to bring you more value. Now, if he ends up going to, like, the Colts or to Baltimore, like, that's not going to be great for him. I do think landing spot matters more. Like, my thing with David Bell's landing spot matters more for him than a guy like Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave, who I think he can produce in almost any offense. Landing spot's going to be a big boon for David Bell.
He's going to need a quarterback who's going to like be able to trust throwing it to him, even if he's covered or something. You know, which a lot of these guys don't want to see the guys open now. They come from college systems where these guys are running streaks and wide open, and they don't trust throwing it to covered guys. They're looking for the open guy. That's Justin Fields' problem right now. Is that he wants to see the guys open all the time. He won't throw it to A-Rod because he's covered.
Tua is the same way. There's quarterbacks that. You guys are all spitting facts out here. I love it.
Yeah, he
that's why this guy matters. He may not be
the
quarterback.
I'm not
He's a window that's too tight.
He did his freshman season. I'll give him props for. I mean, sorry, not freshman, rookie season in the NFL. Like everybody was highlighting all these plays he was doing, throwing into tight windows. But I just don't know what happened over these past couple of years. Maybe the injuries, maybe all this stuff kind of settled in. But he just hasn't been the same player.
I think Freddie Kitchens just completely fucked him up. From what happened in his rookie season to that sophomore year, like, and some of that I think was the offensive line too. It was so bad. Like I don't think he's ever recovered from how bad he just seems to have those happy feet way too much now. And I think a lot of that was just Freddie Kitchens' horrible play calling and a bad offensive line.
Yeah, I think that also ruined like Carson Wentz, where he just tried to do too much, and now he can't go back to what he was doing before. And I think I'm out on Carson Wentz, and for that reason, Baker Mayfield too. It's just these systems just kind of ruin some quarterbacks. It really matters where you go. You know, as a Patriots fan, I'm just super happy we got Mac Jones. He just fit what we did, and he was great for us. But like he wouldn't do well on like 3/4 of the other teams out there.
Super average guy doing super average things.
I needed you on the draft. I needed you on the draft coverage there, Mike. I got absolutely just blasted talking about how Mac Jones was going to matter for fantasy, and everybody told me I was an idiot all last year when he got drafted by the Patriots.
Did
he matter for
before
fantasy
the draft?
I didn't. Not this year, but he will. Like my argument's always been
20 plus.
QB2.
Maybe as a quarterback too. Maybe in a.
But QB2s matter.
Yes.
Like, that's my argument.
Matter.
Not everybody can have Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert as their 2 quarterbacks in a super flex. Someone has to have QB2s, and I think Mac Jones has a chance to be a very good one.
Yep.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to ask a question, though. I know in the show they asked Matt about Treylon Burks and the testing. I'm not worried about either, but I want to know if you guys think maybe maybe he moves down like 4 or 5 picks. Like I definitely think he's out of the wide receiver one conversation, right? Like he's no longer in that conversation.
I was looking at grinding the
Probably
mocks
not.
today too, and I think that he was like the third to be picked, like had the best was wide receiver 3, and then he had the best odds to be picked third, I think. Like Garrett Wilson and Drake London were at the top actually. Those were the 2 top guys
So
right now.
Makes sense.
That's my
right,
thing. I don't remember seeing many NFL mocks that had Burks going 1 at all. It's always been Drake London or Garrett Wilson. So like I don't think it's affected Burks at all. I think he's
the Chris
going to
Olave
be fine.
truthers are out there too.
Yeah, he's been in the first round like constantly. Like I know a lot of people were down on him, but it's like you couldn't even sell him in Devy, and I think he's actually going to supply more value for all those people that ended up holding him, and hopefully he didn't sell for like super cheap or something. Because I think he's actually going to be pretty good in the NFL, but we'll see. I guess.
Who?
Olave.
Oh, all right, hard pass, but we'll keep moving forward here because we're talking about Treylon Burks. So I just want to see consensus. You guys think Burks gets drafted before or after pick 15?
After.
I don't know.
Oh, God. What does the draft picks look like? I don't even know.
That's where I was going to go. I was about to get there. I was going to like list you all some teams and ask you guys.
What's his line currently? Because some books have that
you're the betting guy.
NFL is not really my space. But I'll look real quick because I would put his line at like 18.5. But I don't know what it currently is.
I would put him around LA Chargers, New Orleans.
See, I don't think the Chargers go wide receiver.
Would Philly go wide receiver again?
Yeah,
I think they would. Probably looking at the top 15, I don't, Jets probably take a wide receiver with one of their 2 picks. Maybe Atlanta does with the Calvin Ridley stuff. I don't know. I don't know if they take it right there. What are they, 9? Is that what I was looking at? 8? I don't know if they take one at 8. I don't think Washington does at 11 or Minnesota. Cleveland, I definitely think is taking a wide receiver with their first pick. So I do think he's within that range because Cleveland's picking at 13.
Yeah, that's the only team that I could see maybe picking him because they need an alpha there, and he can probably be an alpha, do everything alpha for them, a versatile. I
don't think he makes it past the Patriots and the Raiders, 21 and 22. There. So
I don't know if he gets past Philly either. I don't know I wonder if Philly would take him there. But
I feel like Philly's going to go all line because they need so much help on offense and defensive line. Picking back to back right there, they can probably get 2 good players. Like Chargers, I hope they go defensive line. They need help there to stop the fucking run. But it's going to be 15 and 16. They have 15 and 16. They got back to back picks because of the Carson Wentz trade or whatever.
They probably miss out on Penning and Cross, so they gotta probably take. Man, they might be the team to take Jordan Davis in the first round, which I think is just a horrible miscalculation. But I think they might do it.
They have 3 picks. One of them is going to be luxury.
Yeah, you know where Burks is going to go, right? He's going to end up going 24 to the Cowboys. Like he's going to keep falling, and then Jerry Jones is not going to be able to help himself, being the Arkansas homer that he is, and just take him.
I mean, I don't think that's a bad spot either. I mean,
it won't be.
It wouldn't. No, it wouldn't be. No, yeah.
Especially with Cooper being gone, it's something they don't need it, and I think that's going to be the big. Like when they took CeeDee Lamb, whatever it was, a year or 2 years ago, like they didn't need CeeDee Lamb. They could have gone somewhere else. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I maintain if I had to set his line, it's like 18.5. I think that he's going to go like to the Eagles, or he's going to fall to like the Pats and the Gators.
I forgot the Eagles have the 19th pick as well, so they got 15, 16, and 19.
Yeah, they got 3 in there.
Because I can see them taking him at 15 or 16 and then waiting for one of the. Man, are they really going to take a D lineman in the first round? Like they really need to.
I think so. They need to. They need defensive line. They need cornerback. They need offensive line. That's why I don't know if they go wide receiver. Like, I think they build right there and then maybe try and grab a guy in the second because they've got good second-round pick, too. Like, I don't know.
The problem for offensive line is the problem for offensive line for them is that they're going to miss out basically on, like, the top, like, 5 guys, I would say. Like, Neil.
They do have some ammo to move, though, I guess, if they wanted to try to get somebody there.
Yeah, if they wanted to move up, they could get, like, Penning from Northern Iowa. He's probably the third guy. But I mean, they need to. I suspect that we see 4 offensive linemen drafted in the top 12, so they need to be there if they really want to get a top 4 guy. Which I think that's the tier break.
Okay, I got some questions for Corey again.
Last one.
You got
your 5 minutes.
Okay, you gotta go fast, Corey. You better go fast, Corey. It's on
Rapid
you.
fire.
Okay.
What do you got for me?
First off, I just want to know how you got into writing about football. Just that quick journey and how you made it to Campus Canyon. Just real fast.
Oh man, I don't even know. I guess playing fantasy football, I think I won the league the first year I ever played. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. So it hooked me right away because I thought it was super cool. It kept getting deeper and deeper. It kept getting into the rookie stuff a lot and finding sleepers in rookie players. So that were, beating my teammates in that sense, because I knew, which got me into college ball, which eventually led to starting my first Devy league. I think my first Devy pick ever was freshman Nick Chubb, and that was a ride because he freaking tore his ACL. His value plummeted like crazy. Nobody even expected him to come back the way he came back, so that was pretty awesome. Cortland Sutton was my second pick, so I hit on those two, and again, I was hooked, and I don't know if my track record has been as good since then, but it's been a fun ride, and I've just been getting deeper and deeper into it, and now deeper into the CFF part of it. Taking part in my first CFF leagues since 2 years ago now. C2C leagues for 2 years now. Entering only my third, so I'm still a baby too. I was resorting to freaking Moxley's ranks every week to try to see what he was thinking and picking his brain in the chat. So yeah, it's been fun, man. It's cool. Awesome to be part of this team now.
That's awesome. All right, my next question is I had 2 questions. I had 2 more questions. I messed up. Okay, all right. I can't remember.
Write them down.
I just thought of one that I wanted to write down. The other one is written down.
Come on, bring the notepad.
The other one is what projects are you working on now? What do you have going on for football right now?
We've got some things going on in the background that we're pretty excited about. Those will be coming to light a little bit later on. Me and you have been talking about the start of a podcast, possibly, where we want to talk about some things just from purely a Devy angle. Hey, we love the Devy debate.
Right.
You guys dig into everything. You guys have a lot of college football knowledge as well, but sometimes, I think people want to focus on the Devy aspect and get a little bit more Devy out of their thing, the NFL transition most of the time. And we're going to be kind of focusing solely on that. Maybe a bi-weekly pod during the season.
Cease and desist. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. We just think we love the college debate.
Yeah. Hey, I learned so much from you guys, honestly, because a lot of the time we are just focused on the transition and stuff like that. And that's how we kind of find players as well, is deeper into the college and stuff like that. But go ahead. Speaking
to the college thing too, I am learning so much about coaching schemes and how much that stuff matters, and that's to me that's to get me to the next level in my thought process and being a Devy analyst, and I'm really enjoying listening to the CFF podcast run by Jared. I love that. I tweeted out today about Dylan Goffney, and CFF Nate had the audacity to go on there and tell me why that's wrong.
Like about Rasheed Rice.
But it's all good. No, I think Rasheed Rice is going to be the guy there. I just think Goffney's the guy there for Devy. You're going to take a pick on one of the two for Devy. I'm on Goffney.
I too like Goffney. I'll defend you on that one, Mike.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And so, and I'm pretty excited too about doing some future work with you. I hope it's okay if I can announce the name of the podcast for the crowd. Are we good to go on it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's going to be back to Devy for everybody. Instead of back to school, we're going back to Devy. All right, so it's going to be the new flagship, I think. I don't know. And then you'll have to listen to college debate once a week and it's whatever.
Mike's persona is going to be hard to top, so he might draw all the attention. I don't know. He might make this the flagship. Maybe. We'll see.
I need to put up the quality that you do with Brandon Lejeune. I'm over here I'm just a small tadpole in a pond right now, and I'm trying to get big back.
I'm a small tadpole in the pond. Hannah called you John Lennon. I think it's a pretty good one. Yeah. With your sunglasses.
Oh man, that might be it. That might be all the questions I have. I'll probably remember as soon as we go off air. So whatever.